San Francisco District Attorney called out after a pharmacy is raided by a thief in broad daylight. A local reporter posted footage of the incident on social media with the hashtag no consequences, tagging the city's progressive DA. Here to react is congressional candidate and chairman of the San Francisco Republican Party, John Dennis. John, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks for being here.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
How do you get a hold of what's going on there?
Well, you know, they're pointing to the particular retail problem as if that's the issue. But what we really have here is a massive drug addiction problem on the streets of San Francisco. So you combine that with legislation that we passed here in California in 2014 called Prop 47, which allows people to steal up to $950 with virtually no consequences. So now you have drug addicted folks going into Walgreens, going into CVS, going into local stores, sometimes literally with calculators, and stealing up to the limit and then leaving because there are no consequences. Well,
and this is happening in broad daylight. There have been 17 San Francisco pharmacies that have closed in 5 years due to shoplifting. You are running for Congress. What would you do to change what's going on there?
Well, and this is where I think, my opponent, Nancy Pelosi, deserves some of the blame. She creates this national theater, in Washington, D.C. Meanwhile, in our own district, we have devastation going on. Congressmen and congresswomen pride themselves on the amount of money federal money that they bring back to their districts. But if I were the congressman for this district, I would use that as a leverage point with local city officials who run this city and say, hey, listen, you're not getting nickel one unless you get the streets under control. I mean, I don't think people really understand what's happening here. Go through the Tenderloin. Sometimes, driving through this rough part of town, you have no choice but to go through there. And it's unlike anything you've ever seen in a major American city. I would call it third world, except I don't want to insult the third world.
Wow. Meantime, California trying to rescue its marijuana industry with taxpayer money. How is this going to happen? Because they passed a bill to aid the legal pot industry. That's $100 million in grants to cities. Here's what the governor has to say. We can go ahead and pull this up. Quote, Governor Newsom is dedicated to the success of the legal cannabis industry in California. The purpose of this one-time $100 million grant and funding is to aid locals and provisional licensees in more expeditiously migrating to annual licensure. I imagine taxpayers might have something to say about this, though.
Well, what's the reason why he's doing this is because the legal marijuana business has unbelievably high, burdensome taxes and regulations to overcome in order to stay in business legally. Issues that the black market illegal sellers don't have. So what the governor is doing is he's subsidizing the legal cannabis market in order to pay for the regulations that they impose in the first place. And of course, the loser on all this is the taxpayer, because they're paying for, basically to continue to subsidize the state of California's regulatory agencies.
A lot going on out there in California to discuss, that's for sure. John Dennis, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Jillian.
Sure.
My pleasure.